Well, let's get right into it because I can't wait for her to share her life experiences. Television writer of such shows as Mad Men, love that show, and United States of Terra, love that one too. Tracy McMillan joins me now. Hi, Tracy.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, I'm really well. Thank you very much. I'm having a great day so far.
Well, you must be exhausted. How do you do all this stuff and have a life?
Well, I'll tell you this. When I was a little kid, I was very, hyperactive, and I'm much later, here I am in my 40s, I'm hyperactive just looks like super productive. So I have a lot of energy, and I will say I love to take a 12-minute nap every day. So
okay, I'm so jealous. I don't get the 12-minute nap thing. I take a 12-minute nap, and I want 42 minutes more.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to set the timer and not go too far. You just barely go into sleep, and you come back, it's boom, totally refreshed.
Well, I God bless you. That's why you're so talented. The Huffington Post article that you wrote, Why You're Not Married, went viral, and this actually led to your book, Why You're Not Married Yet. Can you tell me about this?
Yeah, the piece started really as sort of almost like a comedic essay that I wrote, because I'm a writer, and so that's what I do. And I performed it at a staged reading series here in Los Angeles, and the response was huge, and people were like, oh my goodness, you should turn that into a book. So I knew that I wanted to do something with it, and I put it in the Huffington Post maybe 3 years later, and it went massively viral, taking me completely by surprise.
Well, that's a good surprise.
It was. I had no idea. I mean, really, a lot of it came from this place of I've been married 3 times. And people will ask me, how have you been married 3 times? I can't even get married once. And Why You're Not Married was the comedic kind of true but, provocative answer to that question.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I think also it comes from this idea that, I've read certainly a lot of relationship books, and I feel like a lot of the discussion around relationships is well, why don't I have a relationship? It's oh, because you're too fabulous, girl. And it's no, I'm sorry. Being fabulous is not a problem. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's not a problem.
Or there's no good men out there. And it's no, that's not true. There's people getting married all the time to really wonderful men. So I know that, generally speaking, I have to look inside me for answers. And that's what I've had to do in my own life. And really, it was just a provocative way to kind of get into this conversation about, well, why is it that so many people are unmarried or not finding love, and they want to find love? So I really wanted to kind of dive into that question, and that's where Why You're Not Married came from.
Well, it's brilliant, and I totally agree. I had to look inside myself, too. It took me forever to get it right, but I finally did get it right, which is really all that matters in the end, right?
Yeah, I think the thing is, and this is part of my message, people are oh my gosh, you're being so mean to women. I'm no, not really. I mean, you have to understand
honest.
The humor, but you also have to go, it's not mean to tell the truth.
No.
The truth is not mean. The truth can be difficult to hear, but it's also the only thing that sets you free. So if you want to continue to say, oh, okay, I can keep doing whatever I'm doing and have a different outcome, well, at your peril, you know what I mean? I know that didn't work for me, and
absolutely.
I may not have figured everything out, but I can definitely use some of my experiences to help other people not make the same mistakes that I've made.
Which is awesome. And I think that's most helpful because I think people can learn from paying attention to people who've actually been through it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times people will say to me, well, why should I listen to you? You've been married and divorced 3 times.
Right.
And I always say, where you have your biggest challenges is where you have the most to give. Because you learn a lot from success, but actually you can learn even more from failure if you really study your failures. And that's what I've done. And, I just feel like there is wisdom that you get from making mistakes, figuring out what you did wrong,
absolutely,
and really going deep in the self-examination. You know?
See, a lot of people are so afraid of that.
What I write about.
Yeah. A lot of people just don't want to do the work.
Well, I don't think they realize that it's even supposed to be work. I mean, in a way, it's like exercise. You know what I mean? Or it's like, see, people would rather drink a Diet Coke with a Big Mac and French fries. Yeah. You know, it's like, okay, well, tell me the book that's going to tell me where all the good men are. That's what I want, and where I don't have to change one thing about what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm just
or what I'm
go
attracted
to a new location and have the relationship of my dreams. It's like, no, it's not like that. It's like really, getting a great relationship is more like the brown rice, a brown rice situation. Where think how long it took to like brown rice. It took a while. But then now, after that, after wheat bread, you don't want that white bread anymore.
No, you love brown rice, right? Well, tell me about your experience so far on Ready for Love. I got to see you on it, and I just thought you were fabulous. And I really like the concept. I love the concept because, you know, when you watch The Bachelor and these shows, I mean, there was so much missing. I mean, first of all, you just wanted, I was constantly sitting on the couch going, what are you thinking? Turn around. Look what she just did to her. You know, it's like,
totally.
You know, so I think this is a brilliant idea. Tell me about your experience so far.
Well, I feel like Ready for Love is just this show that really, it's exactly what you're saying. It's like it introduces an element of kind of learning into the process of dating. I don't think anybody's really approached the reality show about dating from the process of meeting, dating, and falling in love. And that's what Ready for Love is all about. And again, people are like, oh, you're pointing out people's flaws. It's like, no. I mean, no one is doing everything right in dating. We could all stand to learn something. And I feel like what it allows people to do, and a lot of the feedback has been, I can watch the show with a notepad and, you know, get tips that I can use in my dating life starting this weekend.
Exactly. Well, do you think it's harder matchmaking with the cameras surrounding you?
Well, I think we chose girls that had things in common with the guys. But I think, like, in one sense, dating is just really hard. And in a way, when you're dating, everybody sort of has a camera on them because nobody dates, at least for the first few dates or so, without being highly aware of everything they're doing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I also see that for young people, they don't feel like living on camera. They don't perceive it the same way I do, right? Because they've grown up in a world with social networking and cameras and everything and doing everything online. It's not the same thing for them as it is for us. It just isn't. They're like, okay, whatever, who cares? It's not that big of a deal to document their whole lives. It doesn't feel intrusive the same way it feels to somebody who's like 35 or over.
Well, it always blows my mind because, you know, all these young people feel it's acceptable to be dating via text, you know? It's
well, that's how they are. I mean, I have a 16-year-old son. They are on that thing all day long.
And during the dates.
Oh, sure.
Which is just crazy.
It's like that thing, remember in that Madonna movie, Truth or Dare, where she's getting the doctor is looking down her throat, and he's like, do you want to turn off the camera? And Warren Beatty, who's sitting there, and goes, she doesn't want to live off camera.
that's a great
And it's
line.
like, that's how these kids are. They don't live off social networking. That'd be like us saying, you know, we're going to live without, I don't know, electricity.
Sure. Oh, my gosh. Well, if you're just joining me, we're visiting with Tracy McMillan, who is a brilliant writer of so many amazing shows. Okay, tell me about Mad Men. How did that happen?
Well, I'm sitting here being a writer in Hollywood, what's called scripted writer. And, you know, you take meetings, you meet showrunners, what's called showrunner. That's like the main person on a show, Matt Weiner in that case. And my agent submitted my work to him. We had a meeting and he hired me, which is usually how it goes. I mean, you have meetings and people read your work and then you you talk with them about the show, and then they either hire you or they don't. It's all sort of an audition. Everything in Hollywood is an audition.
Right, right. Well, do you put some of your own experiences or things that you saw yourself on TV? It reminds me so much of so many different aspects of life that take place, and kind of that time that I grew up in. I think I'm a lot older than you, but it reminded me so much of many different situations and the fashion and everything, and it caught on so fast.
Well, I think the thing is like, yeah, definitely. As a television writer, a lot of what you're sharing, because you generally work in a writer's room, so it's like a big, like a conference table, and it'll usually be like 8 or 10 writers, and it's basically like having a conversation all day long.
That could be fun.
You pitch what's called pitching ideas for different stories that might happen or different moments that might happen. And a lot of those things that you pitch come out of your own life, you know?
Wow.
So, you know, I can't talk in any way about what goes on inside the Mad Men writers' room because I signed a non-disclosure agreement.
I know. We were hoping for a little,
I can tell you that people share elements of their own life, and some of those elements make it on the screen.
Okay. That is awesome. Well, what's next for you, Tracy?
Well, I'm going to keep doing everything I'm doing. I'm writing another book, actually.
Good for you.
And
can we know what it's called, or is that a secret?
I don't have a title yet. I'm actually toying with a couple of titles. I'm just at the proposal stage right now, and then as a television writer, I'm taking out a couple of different pitches. One of them's a family comedy, and one of them's a relationship comedy. And then I'm working on an hour-long project that's sort of a passion project that I'm in the research stage on.
Well, when you can come back and talk about
and then see what else happens.
That's awesome. Well, when you can come back and talk about some of these things and let us know about your next book, we'd love to have you back.
Oh, wonderful. I'd love to come back. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you, Tracy.